Hey, how you folks doing? We're coming to you from late March, the very edge of Cape Cod. Down there, it's a nice heath of a blueberry, no pun intended. Not blueberry, cranberry, Vaccinium, macrocarpon. You got some Canada, some Canada, Juncus canadensis mixed in there too. We're looking for a few things today. Some of it probably not going to be in. You got a nice little rhododendron right there. That's Rhododendron viscosum, or at least the fruits of it. I'll put the little arrow there. Nice little capsule fruits come off. Finagle the camera. I'm gonna be really trying to be kind to the camera this season. If you catch my drift, yeah. There you go. Rhododendron viscosum, the swamp azalea. One of the several that we get here in New England. Little capsule fruits, already dehissed. Tons of Lyonia ligustrina here, not even in bud. Oh, there's a nice big rhododendron right here. See the bark there. Ericaceae is the famous for both those, Lyonia and this rhododendron falling off the ledge. Nice coastal pond habitats here in the province lands. Pitch pine grove over there, your typical Cape Cod affair. And we're going to keep checking on Spiraea alba, which I didn't realize can grow woody, as was pointed out to me by a companion just now. Member of the rose family. Cool little fruits on it. We're going to keep things going. Nice little, lots of Ericaceae, lots of both wet-loving and dry-loving Ericaceae here on the Cape. And check this out. We get a nice little coastal, we're on the other side of the coastal pond now. Coming up over through these pitch pine glades, Pinus rigida, very important plant out here on the Cape. Super fire adapted for a pine, at least for an eastern pine. You don't think of that, but the Cape, these heathlands are fire adapted communities. Right down there you get a really cool member of the pomegranate family, Decodon, verticillatus, also known as swamp loosestrife. Some of the fruits in my hand right there. Multicarpal fruits, almost like a tiny little pomegranate. Some seeds still in there. Lythraceae is the pomegranate family. Same family, different genus as the dreaded Lythrum salicaria, which commonly degrades many of these habitats. Beautiful splays of elaborate purple flowers on these when they are blooming in the late summer. I've seen it before. Not terribly rare, just a very fascinating eye-catching species. I'll put some pictures up I have in flower. We're continuing on our quest here. But I mean, this is the type of habitat wherein people say, oh, East Coast people don't know about fire. Well, we would if they simply maintained the habitats like this better. This is close to savanna. They call it the province lands, but it is the closest thing to a savanna you're really going to have here, like in the Northeast. Fire adapted, sandy. Everything here is just built upon sand. And very infertile. So we'll keep going. Lots of Ericaceae, lots of cool sedges, lots of cool parasitic plants. I already mentioned Lyonia ligustrina right there. We're going to continue on. The rest of my companions are leaving me in the dust here. Beautiful, beautiful Pinus rigida pitch pine. Very nice. Alright, here you go. Here's our first actual target species of the day. New to me. And part of a trend that you notice if you spend any time around the Cape or southern coastal New England in general. This is Orontium aquaticum. Alright, this is a member of the family Araceae, so the arum family. Specifically, excuse me, it's in the subfamily Orontoidea, which if you know anything about, cold blooming arums, that's the same subfamily as Symplocarpus foetidus and the rest of the Symplocarpuses there, and Lythraceae. This is in the skunk cabbage subfamily. It's a pretty small subfamily, but it's also, I believe, the second most basal subfamily in the entire family Araceae, which is a pretty large family. So most Araceae are, hyper-diverse, lineages of tropical monocots, epiphytes. It's a very fascinating family of the tropics, but they also have a number of species that are exceptionally cold tolerant, and some of our only winter bloomers here in New England. If you're down south, again, this is what I was going to get to. Down south, this is not a rare plant. Up here in New England, it's just barely reaching the top of it, the farthest north of its range. And even then, it still blooms now at the end of March into early April. I guess it goes pretty late into the season, into June in some cases. But as you can see, it's had no problem blooming now in March. So Orontium, it's a really cool subfamily. They're all weird looking. These don't have that same super conspicuous spadix that you would see on a skunk cabbage. I'll put a picture of Carpus foetidus. But that little yellow thing is a cluster of the individual flowers. And you'll have to excuse me as I get in there. Again, I hear you guys. I'm going to really work on the camera handling habits. I get lazy later on in the season is the problem. But here in the early season, I still have the patience for it. Come on, there we go. So each of those little green bumps you see there, that's all an individual flower. Alright, you catch my drift? I don't know too terribly much about the specific anatomy of these, but it almost looks like they're in parts of 4. Araceae has a lot of flowers that, unlike most monocots, which are in parts of 3 or 6, 9, etc., they're in parts of 4. So you could have tiny little I'll have to look at it. Maybe I can figure out what the staminate versus they usually are not bisexual flowers. I'll have to look up what the staminate versus the pistillate flowers look like. But that beautiful yellow inflorescence, obviously trying to masquerade as some sort of larger flower. Again, only found here because the Cape is a microclimate. It's much more cool here in the summer and much more warm here in the winter. It gets a little bit less rain than the rest of New England. Not as little as like Nantucket or the Champlain Valley, but a little bit less rain. This plant, I don't imagine the sand has much to do with it growing here, but just a really bizarre plant, hydrophobic, water-repelling leaves. Again, lacks the spathe. This is just the spadix. That's what that total sum of inflorescence is called. Basically universal to Araceae. And yeah, just emerges from the water there. There's another good-sized patch right there. You get what look like some irises or maybe some cattails coming up there. Actually, probably cattails now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, just a weird, funky plant. Not really common in New England. I'll put up the global range map. But how bizarre to see. What a strange fucker of a plant. And I'm happy because I figured at first I was going to have to come and get a better video of this like later on, like in a few weeks. No strong scent, as one would expect with Carpus foetidus. Just a actually completely scentless plant. What a weird one. Araceae, great family, not exactly hyper diverse in New England. You get a whole bunch of like azalea, the duckweeds, which are tiny, some of the smallest flowering plants in the world. You get a whole few of those. You get skunk cabbage, Carpus foetidus. You get Calla palustris, the wild calla. You get this guy. Just barely get this guy. And then you get like what is it? Peltandra, not Peltandra. That's a different thing. Oh, I can't remember the name of it right now. Maybe it is Peltandra. I'll have to figure out. Whatever. I'll put up whatever the plant I can't currently place is. Maybe Peltandra virginica or something. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I gotta catch up to the rest of the party here. Orontium aquaticum, golden club. I believe that there's this species, which is native to the eastern U.S., and I think maybe 1 or 2 species native to China, or at least East Asia. It's got that whole aquatic East Asia, East U.S. split that's so prevalent amongst a number of our shared lineages. Hemlock, blah, blah, blah. Basically genera that only exist in Eastern Asia, Japan, and the eastern half of the United States. It's very common to get genera that are split between the two. Different species, just the same genera. And you won't find them in Europe, you won't find them in other temperate regions of the world. Just there. Could do a whole episode on that, but I'm going to cut myself off here. Orontium aquaticum, everybody. The golden club, which is what Orontium actually means. So we'll check back in when we see some more stuff. We'll get a couple more target species to look at today.
I'm not saying it doesn't occur, but I have never seen this habitat occur elsewhere in Massachusetts.
This is really cool habitat. So we're down coming through the dunes here, and you get into these little depressions where there's moss and there's Vaccinium macrocarpon, and these ones I've been through winter, and these ones, dare I say, are pretty delicious. I don't normally do the whole foraging thing, but this is where cranberries come from in the world. If you ever, I'm New Englander. Ooh, it's tart. I like cranberry sauce. I like cranberry bread. I like cranberry juice. These are actually pretty delicious. Going through the winter makes them ripen up a bit. And in fact, we just saw some maybe fox or coyote shit that had a whole bunch of cranberries in it. It's how they get around. You can see this is a gimmick. They grow in like fake bogs in some parts of Massachusetts, but right here, this is like where they're indigenous to, for lack of a better term. And I mean, they taste pretty damn good. But these little swaths in between these sand dunes, this is Massachusetts habitat. This is New England. This is what you miss out on if you just go to Cape Cod for the beach, and if you only give a shit about the Rosa rugosa, which is not native here. This is a savanna mixed with like a, I guess you could still call, I'm still calling it a heathland, even though I know it's a little bit different. We're gonna go look at some actual other heath plants in a little bit here, but Vaccinium macrocarpon, the American cranberry, is absolutely one of those plants in that family. Ericaceae, we're gonna see a few more today. We already seen a few, but we're gonna see a few more in a little bit. Beautiful red color to these. Imagine if it was sunny out and you could actually get the light on these. All right, we're checking. We're gonna go down and see if we can see some stuff near the beach. And so here's the juxtaposition of the of this habitat. You come up, just to our left was all that cranberry, that moss under the shade, and up here on the sand, all that up over there is Hudsonia tomentosa. Not a member of the family Ericaceae, but has some similarities in its gestalt. It's in the family Cistaceae, which is also, you know, a frequent inhabitant of the, you know, coastal New England communities, and that is absolutely what I would consider a heath-forming plant. We're still looking for another one. We're looking for Corema conradii, which is a member of the Ericaceae, but a very strange one. And I'll give you a few reasons as to why that is when we eventually go see. We might have to go to a different spot to find it. Lots of Hudsonia, lots of cranberry here. I'm not really seeing much of the Corema conradii, but we'll get to it when we get to it. I know where it's growing. Don't worry. Check this weird little thing out. This is a mushroom. Astræus is the genus, but I've been told it's a fool's errand to try and get it down to species. We've been seeing these all up and down the sand. If you remember, I made a video a few years ago, and I had been wondering what the hell these mushroom things were coming out of the sand. Indeed, a sand-loving mushroom. The stipe you can barely make out. It's dried up right there. Here's another one right here. Astræus. I'm not trying to get it down to the species. There's the top. And then the stipe is obviously underneath it. That's the underside of it right there. So we get the genus, but we don't really know the taxonomy. It's up for debate right now. It's being figured out as we speak. Okay, here's our other, our final, I guess, target species for today. Again, I'll put up a little video. I covered this one very briefly in the past, but it was in August when this was definitely not in bloom. So this is blooming, believe it or not. This is a, hang on, I'm just gonna have to move we'll get the close-ups in a second here, so I can actually give you some context. Let's just do this real quick. There you go, get it generally in focus. So this is Corema conradii, commonly known as broom crowberry. Alright, this is a member of the family Ericaceae, the blueberry family, though it really doesn't look like it. This is a key component of the Cape Cod, savanna, heathland flora here. And this one, as you can see, is growing in a slightly different habitat than where we were seeing Hudsonia. All of the plants do share quite a few common features. So now this one, you know, likes the fire dependence. It'll kill the mature plants, but the new one of those ones kills the mature plants, but the new ones don't germinate unless you have fire coming through. So it's kind of like that, right? So it's got these tiny little oppressed leaves that just basically stick it. It almost reminds me more of a conifer, like a juniper, than it does an ericaceous plant. But it is in fact an Ericaceae. Specifically, it's in the tribe Impetrae, and it shares its lineage with a shockingly low number of plants. So there's two species of Corema, one here and basically restricted from like the Canadian Maritimes, coastal New England, maybe down to Jersey. I think definitely down to Jersey. I'll put up the population map of that. And there's another one native to the Azores and western, like far western, you know, arid Western Europe, like Portugal, Spain. I think just the Iberian Peninsula in general. And then you have a other genus, which his name is currently escaping me down there in I think in Florida, like the southeastern U.S. And then you have 3 species of Impetrum, including Impetrum nigrum, which likes this coastal habitat and it likes the mountain habitat, but that one likes it more open and rocky. It's not really a sand dweller like this one is. And there's a few other species. It's like in Petrum. So the entire tribe in Petraea is basically only made up of 6 species then, which I'm now thinking out loud. This was formerly in the genus Impetrum, so taxonomically, kind of an interesting little story there, all right? The habitat we've talked a lot about today, it's these coastal, sandy, this is more of a savanna here, not really, doesn't really do the dunes, likes more of the savanna, likes it a little bit flatter and a little bit shadier. Likes the fire, likes the coastal habitat, needs sand, needs fast drainage, and we covered the taxonomy, which is interesting. Let's do a little bit of the anatomy here. So it's got these oppressed flat leaves that would fill out a bit more in the summer. And if you know anything about Ericaceae, you know what a blueberry flower looks like? Or hell, even an Impetrum flower. You're probably thinking, what the hell is this? So this is the male flower, because it's a dioecious species. It has male and female individuals. Those are the anthers spelling out. No corolla to be found, just raw dogging the anthers out there in the open. Dongs in the wind. Dongs in the wind, you know what I mean? So this thing, I'll have to look up. I don't believe it's wind pollinated. I think it does have some sort of insect pollination. Full bloom. It'll be done by the end of April. Like done well before the end of April. Blooms this early, so I mean it must be feeding something. Wouldn't really make sense to be Anemophilus if you're, going to open up shop that early, but who's to say? I'll have to come back and figure that out. No clue if it, like a lot of other Ericaceae members, yeah, those are the anthers right there. No corollas to be found. Highly reduced flowers. No clue if it's still doing poor settle anthers. I'll have to maybe figure that out. But yeah, just comes up in this little semi. Of course, the thing's all screwed up now. Camera lens off the track. Comes up in these little semi-arid savanna-type habitats. So, Comptonia peregrina right there. See the leaves? Obviously not blooming yet for this year. So that's a male. And then over here we found a female. So in a similar way to how the male plant is reduced to simply, the male flowers I should say, are reduced to simply nothing but anthers. The female plants, see those 2 little forks up at the top there? Those are the stigmas. The stigma and the style. Just nothing but stigma style ovary. Super reduced. It's an ericaceous plant that thinks it's a conifer in form and in function, but in fact, I believe these are actually in the core subfamily of Ericaceae, Ericoideae, just like I was explaining before, in their own weird little tribe, the crowberry tribe. 2 species of Corema, 3 species of Impetrum, and then that one that I can't remember down in the sand plains of the southeast. That one's a cool species too. But anyway, that was the other main thing that we really wanted to look at today. Corema conradii, Orontium, aquaticum, associated habitats, and the mere fact that they do their thing. They're open for business here at the very tail end of winter. And what a nice time it is to come out to this part of the world. We're going to go check out maybe 1 or 2 other things. Go show you what some of the other cool Cape species are doing this time of year. Because some of them have some interesting winter habits. And I have no idea how long this is going to be. But this is interesting stuff. This is the type of stuff most people don't get to see. Not showy by any means. Not a showy plant, not showy flowers. But what an interesting anatomy and what an interesting habit to its life. Yeah, there you go, brothers in arms. Corema conradii, Arctostaphylos uvaersi. You can't. It would not be the Cape without these 2 species. Fuck your Rosa rugosa. It does not belong here. It is not native. It is not conducive to the habitat, and it can survive in the dunes. But unlike these species, which tie the sand together, that one's merely just hanging out. Leathery leaved, evergreen, ericaceous plants, much more akin to those you find in high alpine zones, and even those you would find in the desert, especially Arctostaphylos, other than uvaersi, which gets all over the place. Most Arctostaphylos are desert dwelling plants. The manzanitas. Oh, we're hanging out in the Chamaecyparis swamp now, taking a little detour. You come right in back of the, some of the dunes and some of the beaches. You get cuprous-oid swamps, Chamaecyparis thyoides, member of the redwood family. Forms nice swamps down south with taxodium, but up here in New England, you're at the far northern extent of its range, nice and swampy. Unlike a thuya swamp, which can be kind of similar though, look at the tannins and the oak leaves in the water there and remind yourself that you're in fact pretty far south, and that this is a very acidic habitat, not a nice calcareous habitat like you would expect in some of those nice northern white cedar bogs. But Atlantic white cedar is still one of my favorite trees. Still got that nice, beautiful, ropey, sinewy Rosaceae bark. There's a nice big one right there. And then some monster pitch pines too on the edge of this, which they'll grow in bogs. They don't mind wet feet, but the dominant trees in here are Chamaecyparis thyoides, some red maple, and then some Nisus sylvatica, some tupelo, or black gum, whatever the hell they want to call it. And we're wrapping up here at one of the coastal plain ponds that we shot a video here about bloodroot, and one of the species in it was this species, but it was out. This is a Drosera. This is Drosera filiformis, and this is what it does all winter. Makes something called a hibernicula. So even in the winter, even if, I mean, this is the Cape Cod. It doesn't really snow down here, but it gets damn freaking cold. Even in the dead of winter, January, February, this thing's balled up. You can see here, see these coming out of it? Those were the leaves from last year. And like an octopus curled up inside a bottle, it's just got itself wrapped up in a tight little knot there. So plants don't die in the winter if they're perennials, which this is. They have usually gimmicks or something that they do. They try to hang on. They go dormant in their root. And sometimes, like this plant, they go dormant above ground. Also unique and interesting to this habitat is there. That's the basal rosette of Sabati Kennediana. That guy just stays out all winter. Even if it freezes over, those leaves stay green, and he's hidden underneath there. So we got a whole bunch of that Drosera filiformis here. This habitat looks dead, but there's still a ton of interesting stuff to come see. Get a rare Dicanthelium, a rare panic grass, rosette panic grass, whatever you like to call them. Right here. Come on. I'll have to ask my friend. What the hell is it? Not showing up on camera. So this stalk right here. So there's the basal rosette. And here's the growth from last year. And if I could, get a better video of it on there somewhere, you get a tiny little rachis, not rachis, that's the wrong term for it, tiny little peduncle that would have held a very, very short inflorescence, highly unusual for the genus Dicanthelium. These are cool grasses. Get into Dicanthelium, get into Andropogon, get into Schizachyrium, get into Sagastrum. Lots of cool grasses out there. Lots of cool grass adjacent things. This is the seed head of an Ericaceae, aquaticum. Oh, got some of the powdery. And anything else? General habitat shot again. Tons of those hiberniculas. Once you actually sit down, you know what you're looking for. Cool Dicanthelium. And I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything else. Oh, that plant that we were here looking at in the fall was a Carolina bloodroot, family Haemaduraceae. There's the seed head of that. Spent seeds. Cool 3-part capsule. Almost reminds you of a euphorbia fruit. Of course, this being in Haemaduraceae, primarily southern hemisphere lineage. But this one makes it up here. Why can't I remember the scientific name of it? Something caroliniana. But it doesn't really matter. Still got that red pigment on the inside of the spent seed heads. And a beautiful, as always, coastal plain pond shore habitat. How about that? Even when everything looks dead, there's still interesting stuff to be seen. So anyway, I think we're gonna cut it off there. It's freezing. It got damn cold.
in a month everything will be turning green. But right now, I mean, it's still, there's a snowstorm coming into northern New England tonight, dumping 8 inches. It won't snow down here, barely even rain down here, but winter, it's still winter in New England if you really think about it. So we'll cut things off there and stop annoying my friends. You get a rare dicotyledon, get a restricted range Drosera, cool disjunct bloodroot, which now it's bothering me that I can't remember the name of it. Lacnanthes Carolina, that's what it is. Lacnanthes, right here. Your Lacnanthes Carolina, super disjunct here in New England, but a weed, basically considered a weed down south, and one of my favorite plants. Weird taxonomic disjunct from the rest of its family. Weird taxonomic monotypic genus. Blah 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 blah. And yeah, I'm just rambling at this point, so we'll cut it off. We'll cut it off right there. Lots coming down the pipeline for this year, but functionally, this technically isn't the first video I shot this year, but the first springtime video, we'll call it. And I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.